Hey, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Yoml. This is the year of magical learning. Today we're actually on 205, and this is the last installment, part five of five of one of my favorite book, Power Top Five, The Black Swan. So let's see what we got for today as far as reflection is concerned.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So this is the dramatic conclusion of part five of the Black Swan
Could
reflections.
there be a part six?
I mean, there could be. Who knows? I think I need to read it again to get more inspiration for additional reflections. And
I'm
I and I
telling you, this
and I want
book
to.
is
Yeah.
packed with a lot of
Oh yeah.
stuff. I think it's you would discover new things going over it at least twice.
I wholeheartedly agree. I could probably do. I could probably mine this one for you know probably 10 different times reading through it and probably
Hmm.
find something, a good golden nugget out of it. However, I'm not going to start to reread any books. That's the first thing that I want to do once this journey is over. I'm on 330. I wrote 337 today. No, 338 today. And as soon as I hit that 365 number, like I'm going to go back and I'm going to go reread some of my favorite books because it's been a long time since I've reread any books, and I'm like jonesing to get back into like a quick pass through of Thinking Fast and Slow or The Black Swan or Seven Habits or something like that, where I'm like, man, it'd be nice to do like a yearly refresher on some of my favorite books, but for me right now, I'm so focused on finishing this marathon, and getting to that magical number, 365 reflections, where I'm like, just stay focused, don't, like just let's get it done, and then from there I can just go back to having a little bit more fun, because right now
I
it feels
think
like
I think it's all based on perspective, and this is what
it
we
is.
called yesterday. It's about purpose, right?
It is,
And
yeah.
so no one put a gun to your head and say, "Hey, you have to complete
Not at
books,"
all.
right? You just say, "Hey, this is the year of magical learning. Every day I'm learning something, regardless whether it
Right.
come from like 10 of them come from one book or one of them come from one book or none of them come from a book, right?
I agree.
I mean, you don't have to say, "Hey, oh." The point is, it's about learning. I think the purpose, just like we're saying, with Snow, he loves to teach, but he hates his job,
Right.
right? Because the thing is, the way he's looking at it is the wrong way, right?
Right.
So, so like for you, like sometimes you're trying to force yourself, say, I read this book, I need to find a reflection. So
I
the
was,
thing is,
yeah, no, I was struggling with that this morning. The most recent book was the five dysfunctions of a team, and it's so it was okay, but it was like so outcome driven, and like oftentimes like they literally were like, we're only focused on the outcomes, like, and that's how we're going to define our effectiveness as a team. And every time it gives me like that Mufasa, like every time I hear these things, where I'm like, I can't. It was an interesting little fable, and I learned a lot from it. I learned from it. But it didn't
but
push
the thing is,
my
you
my
can
agenda
learn
forward.
something that
Yeah.
doesn't align with your core
Yes.
values. I mean,
Right.
so for you learn something that is irrelevant to who you are, right? And
Right.
so you can't really say, "Hey, I want to take this and put my tool back," right? So my kind of the image in my head is like I'm walking around, I'm exploring, I'm discovering, I'm watching I'm looking at the palace, I'm enjoying the
Yep.
scene, but I'm going to take in these tools, right? And put my tool belt. It's like, so you don't go to the garden and pick every single flower there is. Pick
Right.
the one you want,
No,
right?
you're
And put
totally
it in your
right.
and put it
Like,
in your pocket and keep it. I mean, that's the point of this thing. It isn't to say, hey, I want to pick every single one just because. I mean, if there's a flower and it's this flower is not my cup of tea, fine, and
yeah.
pass on, move along.
Learning what you don't want is also learning, right? Like, and learning what doesn't
I think
align is
that's
also
is
learning.
super important
Yes.
to know what it is that you don't want, right?
Yes.
Because there are thousands, even hundreds of thousands of things that you don't want, and there's only a constrained amount of things that you do want that kind of matches who you are,
Yeah.
right?
No,
And
I
so I
I
think
agree.
if you hoard everything, like there's no room for what you're supposed to. I mean, we talked about this before too. I kind of vaguely remember, hey, that about the having room for what you know for what you supposed to be good at, and so having taking everything into yourself, right? There's not enough room, and then it's going to mask um, the true core values that it makes you, complete, make you like, hey, this is a good life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, you're making me want to go rewrite my reflection for today because I really struggled today because it was one of those like the hot zone ones, where the change or chance favors a prepared mind, where I was like, it didn't align, like what we're talking about. It didn't align. I was trying to make it align,
I
and my
think,
brain wasn't in the right
yeah,
spot,
I think
and anyway,
somebody just
like
twisted that particular saying, aphorism. It's like, I think fortune, favors the prepared mind. I can agree with that, but chance, not really. I just don't see it, right? I think somebody took the word fortune out and put chance in there and say, hey, I coined a new phrase. Like,
right. Fair
it
enough.
doesn't make
Actually,
sense.
ironically, we're gonna blow that whole entire idea up with this conversation today. With the last reflection of Black Swan, which I'll go ahead and I'll make that my segue into going into the reflection because you're right. Like that saying doesn't make any sense, and the more that we go back to it, like it doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, but point taken, like don't force things, right? Like you can also learn what you don't like and you do like. Well, Black Swan, clearly I do like it, so I can't wait to go back and reread it. It's the point. So this particular episode is about Mediocristan versus Extremistan, and this was a big eye-opening concept that seemed to have talked about, like this is kind of the fundamental thesis of the Black Swan theory, really, in a lot of ways, where we think that we live in a place called Mediocristan, meaning it's predictable, it's mathematical, it's something that we can control and we can exert influence on, and that everything can kind of stay in this mean and the averages if we try really hard, and we try to manipulate things that are to tweak stuff to keep it in that happy median zone, that we feel like we can control. And that's mediocrity. And that's what we think that we live in. Every single day you go to work and you're worried about certain KPIs and metrics and whatever else, or every day that our government is tweaking our interest rates and whatever, and every day that our the local government is I don't know, what do they do? Do they think they can control, and the economic thing? I don't know,
Raise
whatever. You get the point.
taxes.
Raise taxes or what,
That's the only thing they do.
inflation, whatever it may be. Like people think that they can go out there and that we can as a human can manipulate nature and manipulate, even man-made concepts to try to keep it into this predictable mediocrity. And it's very easy to fall into that trap. I mean, we're told this stuff we're fed this story from the day that we're born, of you do the predictable thing. You go to school, you get an education, even if you don't like what you learn, you keep learning it, then you go get your degree, then you get married, you have a kid, you get a job, you pay for your debt, and so you can be a Mexican fisherman someday, like you always say, and you can go retire, on a beach somewhere and go fish all day long or whatever it is, right? Like that's the story. That's mediocrity in a nutshell, right? That's what we're told, like, from day one, like, try to be safe, be predictable, live in mediocrity, because that's where the happiness really lies, right? And then unfortunately, as like the Black Swan so eloquently points out, we don't live in mediocrity. We live in extremistan, meaning those outliers events are the ones that shape our everything that we do. Everything that we do is shaped by those outlier events. All that work that we put into in between those outlier events is for nothing. Like, I mean, it's literally it's stupid. It's meaningless, because we're trying so hard to think about our goals and our objectives and our KPIs, and like we're gonna go march up that mountain, and then all of a sudden, like, the mountain gets blown up and there is no mountain, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, what do I do? Like, I just worked so hard to get up this mountain, and then that mountain's gone, and because that's the world that we actually live in. It's actually extremistan, and sadly for me, I learned this, as we've talked about, many a times on this journey. A lot of this journey was started because of all that stuff. For me, is there was an extremistan event where I learned the hard way, we don't live in mediocristan, we live in extremistan. Like, I used to plan 5-10 years ahead, and I used to plan, I used to do a ton of goal setting all the time. I loved making goals, and I loved like thinking that I was had some predictability of marching towards stuff, and I could say, yeah, this is my 5-year plan, this is my 10-year plan, and I'm like now I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? 5-year plan? I mean, like I'm not gonna put a vision board out there, and say like this is where I'm gonna be in 5 years, because like the truth is I have no idea. Like the next Extreme Extent event, maybe just around the corner, the 1,001 day Turkey, or it may be 2 decades away, but either it's irrelevant. It'll happen. It might be 50 years away for me. It might be, I don't know, like, but it will happen. And if it hasn't happened to you already in your life, like it will. Like, I mean, it's just a matter of time. Like, hell, like we experienced it as a Extremistan as a collective, in a few key events recently. Like COVID was an Extremistan event, right? Like, I mean, it redefined a lot of things. It redefined work. It redefined where people live. It redefined what values of properties all over. It redistributed values of properties all over the world, because people were like, well, I don't want to live in this 300 square foot apartment in New York City. I'm going to go move somewhere else, like, where it's cheaper and more affordable, and I can work wherever I want to work. Like, I was just downtown in Indianapolis, like it was 7 minutes away from my house. My wife and I, we were walking around the other day with Luca, and on President's Day, which is on Monday, and we were just enjoying the weather outside and whatever. And like half of the damn buildings are abandoned now. Like, I mean, there's no office space. I mean, we went through our downtown mall called the Circle Center Mall. It used to be, when I was a kid, that was the best place ever to be. And now, like, like it's dead. I mean, we walked through the mall because we didn't have anything else to do. We were just walking around downtown, and we were, there was like half of the shops were completely empty. Like they were just boarded up shops on the inside. And then all the other everything else in that place was like, what do you even do here anymore? Like there's like nobody comes here, this is just a wasted space, Anyway, I digress. My point is like, these events shape our lives, and they define what we do every single day. So for me personally, like I don't want this to all be doom and gloom, because there's a silver lining to all this, right? Like the reason why this is important for me to understand is because it's the fucking truth. It is reality, right? Like this is this is how the world works. So to say that, like, don't make plans, like it's totally healthy to make goals and like and think about the future and everything like that. That is 100% like, our imagination is our superpower. We've talked about this, right? So don't stop doing that, but making sure that you understand that you can't control whether or not that happens, right? Like you cannot put all your eggs into these kind of baskets of what's going to go on. Keep working toward goals that matter, but focus on the here and now and the present of doing the shit that you want to do every single day. And then I promise you will get to, if you're lucky enough, in the future, they will accumulate into outcomes down the road where you will look back and you'll say, man, I'm really proud of all these outcomes that I've generated, not on purpose, but it just happens. But knowing that, like, I did what I wanted to do every single day of my life, because that's all that you can do. Like, that is all that you can do. Knowing that this is the world that we actually live in. Like, mediocrity and sacrificing for the future and sacrificing, and trying to keep things consistent and predictable. It's a fool's errand. Like, so just do what you want to do always, and know that we live in extreme extent. But also at the same time, like, understand how that relates down the road, and you'll still live a happy, fulfilled life, in my personal opinion. So I'll pause there. I'd love to get your thoughts.
So can you distill it into your takeaway from this? What's the purpose of mediocre stand? I mean, when you saying that, it doesn't apply to us.
What's the purpose of mediocrity? Is that
I mean, the thing is, what's the takeaway that you want to leave the viewers with?
There's 2 points, and the first one is understand that this is reality, right? Like this is
when you say this is reality, what you saying? We are in extreme stand. Okay.
Yeah, like that is where we live. Like, understand that is where we live. Like, I mean, like it's
so we don't live in mediocre stand. We thought, or we believe we do, but we don't.
Correct. Yes, we do not live in mediocrity stand. And then step 2 is prepare. Now that you know that, like, prepare by doing the only thing that you can do, which is live your life in the here and now, the way that you want to live your life in the here and now. Like, that's it. Like, that's the lesson of this. For me personally, that's what I took away from knowing this is reality. Like, well, sorry, I don't know what reality is. This is we can't discount the fact that we don't have control over this world, over this life, over all the things that are going to happen to us. Like I don't know that you can debate that one, but I guess I'm open to it because I don't know anything necessarily. But like, I don't know. Maybe in the future somebody figures out how to control Mother Nature and can manipulate everything to do whatever they want to. I doubt it, but who knows? And then, like I said, number two is knowing that is the case. Like, how do you make sure that you can live your life the way that you want to live your life in the here and now, which is, for me, like, just focus on your values. Stop making goals. Stop setting stuff for the future. Just do what you want to do every single day, and it'll be okay.
Right. Okay. And I think this is, I mean, I think it's a fundamental concept, and it's a hard one to understand as well. That's why it's, it needs clarifications. I think, you are completely right. I completely agree with what you said, because I don't believe we live in mediocre stand. The reason for that is because we have talked about kind environment and wicked environment, right?
Right.
Kind is very clear. It's structure. It's rules.
Yeah.
Like chess. In a chess game, it's kind. In the game of life, it's not, because anything can happen, right? And when you look into the kind environment or the mediocre stand, the same is the same. I guess the same terms.
Yeah,
it's the same
there's
thing
rules.
Right. So you look at it. Hey, if I do X, Y, Z, I will get A, B, C, whatever it is. If I continue to earn $10 a day, after 10 days we'll have $100. So that's, you are using the kind environment as a ruler to measure the wicked environment. You are using the wrong measuring device to measure what you, because you look at, for example, in life, right? You say, if I make $5 a day, right? In 10 days I make $50. But do you know that maybe in the fifth day I broke my leg? So how do you
Right.
So that the thing is, so something is, how do people die, right? People say, oh, I've been healthy, and then over time I become less healthy, and over time I become sick, and I get sicker and sicker and sicker, and I die. Most people just, they're healthy, suddenly they get sick, and then they die, right? It's not the gradual rule base that you look at. So we look at the wicked environment as the extremist thing, which is essentially, that's the environment that we live in, and we cannot take the visions of a kind environment and use it as a measuring device to say, hey, if I if I make $10 a day, blah blah blah, and then I should make $100,000, by this, but that's to me is a fool's errand, because it doesn't happen that way. So take into what you just say, when you plan something, it can only go so far. You plan for the whole year, right? It probably go for the next 2 weeks, a month, and then it starts to diverge to complete different things. You get into new information shows up, right? New relationship, old relationship get broken. Things change completely and very fluid. So you in a way, we live in that environment. We live in a wicked environment, aka extremist stand. So I think having the context of the wicked kind of environment helps me understand the concept a little bit better. So you can explain it a little bit more in terms of, hey, we are not, in the environment we think we're in. Because for whatever reason, we think everything has to have some kind of reason or pattern, and we try to, make patterns out of randomness.
Everything. Everything. Why do we do that? Like, I mean, it is ingrained into us to, like, try to find a pattern of why this happened. Like, if a business has success, it's like, oh, well, here's why, and we'll go invent a narrative as to how that happened. And you're like, no.
And so you fit the narrative into how or what you want to see.
Right.
So this is what we're saying is, when we were talking before is when you have a purpose, right? You are writing a reflection to as a learning as a tool to keep, not to say, hey, I read a book, I have
Right.
to write a reflection. To me, this is essentially what we're talking about is we are trying to kind of force ourselves and mold ourselves into this narrative of, hey, one book, one reflection,
Right.
one lesson, one tool we put it into. And so for whatever reason we want to have this consistency, this pattern of kind environment when we completely do not live in that environment. We're completely in an environment that we refuse to accept as, it's random, it's fluid, it's dynamic, and we trying to say, well, it has to have a pattern, and we see what we want to see, so we ignore whatever else is there. And so we say, hey, well, I see this graph, right? Basically, anything that doesn't belongs inside of the window, I expect, oh, these are noise, these are
Right.
outliers, and you completely like remove them. And so to me, that's what we do. I don't know, with everything, whether that's in what we do every day in businesses or in science and engineering. We have these outliers, and we start to discard the signals, right? And then the signal could be as valid, but you didn't think it was belong in a group. So we for whatever reason tries to, I guess, I don't know why, but we want to be in a kind of environment, and to be in a brick environment, which is live, which is so hard and so confusing that we refuse to accept it, and
Right.
and that
I mean,
becomes,
we just refuse to believe that every single day that like we are the 1,001 day turkey. Like, I mean, like literally, we refuse. Like, I
we
mean,
we, we
we wake up.
believe we believe we believe that we are 1,000-day turkey, but we live in 1,001-day turkey.
Right,
If that makes
exactly. I mean,
sense.
it does make sense to me what at least to me what you're saying. But here's the rub of it all, right? Like, there is something reassuring about knowing, well, I can put in work today. This is what I was trying to get at toward the end of this, right? Knowing that we live in extremist sand, like it that could go one of two ways, right? Like, if you acknowledge that we do live in that space, then you go, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point of any of this? Like, what's the point of waking up every single day? What's the point of trying? What's the point of doing anything, right? Like, and you're like, because it's not gonna work toward anything, and it like blows up the whole narrative of dopamine, right? And the future driven dopamine actions of driving your imagination, all these things that we've talked about as our superpowers, right? Like, our superpower of imagination as a collective of humanity probably wouldn't exist if we all woke up every single day and said, oh, I live in extremistan. Like, I'm just imagining my world getting destroyed, like every single day. Like, I mean,
Well,
nobody
it
wants
doesn't
to imagine,
have to get
want to
destroyed.
imagine
You, you,
build.
I think if you become objective in what you see, right, then you have a better chance, have a better odds of navigating it. Because with, for example, if I say, well, if I save $1 a day, right, how much, how many days should I save to the point where I can retire at an age, whatever. If I do that, right, I would never ever going to be able to save it, because things gonna happen. If I save enough money, let's say I save $1,000 a day, I don't know, 5 years from now, I broke my leg, or I need to use it, right?
Right.
So using the measuring tool to measure our life is going to kick us in the butt, because
Yes.
you will never have enough money. Regardless, okay, I will have a number of days to live, right? Let's say 60, whatever, how many days, and then I'll divide that and I'll save, right? The thing is, 2 months, 3 months, things are gonna happen. People are gonna show up. You're gonna get this, you're gonna that, and those things gonna explode you out the water. And it doesn't give you the planning, the 1,000-day turkey that you say, hey, everything is gonna be like the last day, and it looks as a linear extrapolations of how the
Right.
increases go. The problem is that you using that as a measuring tool to say, hey, I'm gonna do this is how I'm going to configure my life so that if I save this amount of money, $1,000 a day or whatever it is to get to this point, right? I will have this much money by this point and I will live off of it by this point, right? The thing is somebody can sue you, right? And it took it all away. So, did you account for that? Did you account for the atomic bomb of, hey, maybe, a fucking airplane just dropped on in your backyard and blow your
Yeah.
house up, and you didn't have insurance or insurance didn't cover enough? I mean,
Yeah.
thousands, millions of things could happen. And so having that measuring tape doesn't work. But what I'm saying is, if I were to know that I live in this kind of society, how do I navigate? Do I put everything in a brown basket? Do I stack my odds? Do I stack my favors? So that I'm not going to save everything. I'm going to learn how to make money. I'm going to learn how to be, in a way, like marketable, meaning the skills I have is going to be useful whether I have a job, and I can constantly replenish that as I go.
Right.
Versus having say I have this amount of money, and then I would just don't need to, brush up on my skills and whatnot, and then completely relying on the plan, quote unquote plan, to get you out of trouble. But to rely on your versatility is better because it's versatile. It changes because that skill set or what that concept, it's also wicked. And meaning wicked meaning it can adapt
Right.
to any environment, any changes that happen. So let's say I have something that's marketable, like your skill set, like, hey, to be able to persuade people, right? If you don't sell the pencil today, you can sell a watch tomorrow. It's
Sure.
not going. It's transferable, and so having that, so having a dynamic skills, right, in a dynamic world, it resonates with it align with each other. So having the ability to understand objectively where you live, able to give you the ability to pick out the things that will align with whatever environment you're in, so that you don't get caught by surprise, and you will, because it's not about whether or not the black swan happens. It will happen,
It
and
will
that's the
happen.
point.
Yeah.
That's the point. I mean, when you say it happens in the universal sense, right? In universal sense, like, hey, it's going to get, to this extreme, but then that's only if you take it from the whole perspective of the universe. And I mean, hey, it didn't apply. It didn't happen to me. Therefore, the numbers are red. But on a specific timeline, whatever you do eventually will happen. You're going to get sick. You're going to get to an accident. You're going to have some kind of hardship.
Something's gonna
Things are
happen.
going
It's
to
gonna
something's going to
redefine your
happen.
life. Right.
It's going to wipe you out, right? And so
Yeah.
the point is, can you get back on your feet again? Do you have the ability?
If you survive, I
Talent.
mean, like, and that you never know what's gonna happen to you, but like, assuming that you move past like that, I think you said it best just a little bit ago when you said you're measuring the wrong shit. Like, you are measuring the
You
wrong
measure,
stuff.
you
Like,
measure, you're using a
measure your
wrong
life.
measuring
Right.
tool, right? To
Exactly.
measure your life, right? Your life is you.
Like, you could be 1,001 day turkey, but those first 1,000 days could be the best days each individually ever. You know what I mean? Like, you could have an accumulation of, if you measure each day as what is your best day. This goes back to Tuesdays with Maury, early on in our journey. I think it was like the sixth book. The perfect day is ordinary, right? Like, do the stuff that you love to do every single day. It doesn't need to be some magical, like, I hiked Mount Everest today and I worked 30 years for it or whatever. You may actually end up at the top of Mount Everest, but you enjoyed every single day the hike up Mount Everest, like, and you had a great day. And if it ended that day, you'd be like, well, it ended that day, like, that's fine. But every single freaking day could
But you
be a
think
great
about
day.
it, you have a great day, on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday, and you live a great day, an ordinary day for like 50, 60 years, right? You add up all those
Yeah.
positive emotions you have over the 60 years versus one time of, hey, I'm
I made it.
I'm
Yeah.
exhilarated on the
Right.
top of the fucking mountain. Well, yeah, you sacrifice all of your years to get
Right.
one, like a spurt of elation,
You
and
might
that's
you,
it.
you should start calling that the 999-day turkey, because it's like the first 998 days sucked, but you got one freaking day of good. and then you died the next day. You know what I mean? Like, it's a like cool. Like you had one day, I mean, I told you about uh that tennis tournament I won back in the summer of 2020 after Amelia had passed away. And I think I told you that I was leaving the tennis center that I was playing at, and people were shaking my hand or whatever, like saying great matches over the past couple of days, like getting my little trophy. And I got in the car and I was like, I shit you not, like I literally went, what was the point? Like, who cares? Like, nobody cares, like, at all. Like, I loved what I did that day, but like, I was like, should I tell my wife? Like, should I like text my friends? Like, should I like, tell my mom, like, I just won a tournament? I'm like, no one fucking cares.
No
Like,
one cares.
like
No
no
one
one
cares.
cares. Like, and that's okay. I did it for me. I was there having fun for me. I had a blast. Like, and I
But
was
that's
like,
the
you know what?
thing is,
Like,
if you understand, right, the reality and be objective, you enjoy the tennis match
right.
because you understand that's your purpose. Versus, hell, I'm going to sweat. I'm going to bust my ass for what the the the
Right.
ceremony
For that
of
5 minutes, for that
I
five
mean,
minute moment,
you think all the Olympic athletes, right? Whenever they're on the podium to receive the gold medal, it's like, oh, this is it.
I bet half of them are depressed when they're getting their medal. Like 5 minutes after they get their medal, I bet half of them are like, "What do I do now?" Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because not everybody can be a four-time Olympian or something like that, like Michael
But
Phelps.
that's the thing is
But
we have to make sure if running, if swimming, if whatever that you do is what you enjoy, don't
right,
sacrifice and force yourself to become that person, that athlete to receive the medal because
right,
you're gonna be disappointed. And this is where you're forcing yourself, you are using the wrong measuring stick to
right.
measure your life, and you're going to be disappointed and you're gonna get lost.
In mediocrity, and you plan, and you take incremental steps and you measure it along the way, like, and you think that you're going towards some goal. Like, that's what you do in mediocrity, and there's some value to that, but once that's over, like, it's over. Like, you can it's not like, once you realize that illusion is gone, it's like, that's more devastating than anything, right? I mean, that is the 999-day turkey, where you're like, it hurts almost more, if I had to guess. I've never been an Olympian that won a medal, but I would guess it probably hurts almost as much, like, the day after, winning a medal, as it did the day that you won the medal, where you're probably like, this sucks. I mean, it reminds me of Andre Agassi, like, walking around Paris after he won the French Open. He was like, "This is it. I'm number one in the world. I just won my first major," and he's like, "This is it." Like, like, I mean, this is what I put all that work in for, and did the shit that I hated every single day, so I could tell everybody that I, was number one in the world, and I won a major. Like, that's more depressing than you could ever possibly imagine, I'm sure, if you did it for the wrong reasons. Like, and this is why it's so important to understand, like, you can still achieve great things in this life, but do it understanding that we live in extremistan, and do it every day for the right reasons. Like, and that's that. Like, but don't expect any outcome to ever happen. Like, don't ever expect that there's going to be,
Right,
some.
because I mean, you are measuring like something completely different using something, a measuring tool that you basically took from some other world to kind of
Right.
measure it. And the thing is, the odds of you getting it correct are so slim because
It's almost impossible. Like,
exactly, it's impossible. And the odds of you doing it wrong is going to be like very high. And that's the point, is because to me, the way I see this is how I see it, most of what we have in our world, it is very wicked environment. They're very fluid. They're very dynamic. This is what I mean when we say wicked. I mean, somebody coined the term kind environment wicked. One of the books that
range.
right range, right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying is there is only a few things that is kind, which is like chess or something that is
Tennis.
completely, but everything else, like anything that's dynamic, right, is going to be wicked. So to me, there's 99 percent wicked to 1% kind. And so you have to understand what you're dealing with. And so you have to be objective and say, okay, this is a wicked environment. So you have to use a measuring tool for that environment versus using the other ones. Because you look at like people who, let's say like we're talking about like the wicked like inside of a wealth like in the wealth split, right? Like 1% of the people own 99, like they own 99% of all the wealth, right? 1% of all the website get all 99% of all the traffic.
Why did James Clear sell 10 million copies of Atomic Habits in the first 2 years? 10 million copies. Like, I mean, that's insane success for a book. What was different about that book versus the other 300 plus books that we've read? I mean, some of them are objectively better. I mean, not objectively, subjectively better, you know, per my purview of it. But like, and don't get me wrong, like his book was good, but like, was it like that much better than every book that I've ever like? No, not even close. Like, I mean, it's not even it makes no sense why that even exists, you know, like why that many people have received that message from James Clear. And I hope to God that James Clear doesn't think that he somehow it knows more than other people still, you know, because he's like, oh well,
I mean,
I still
haven't,
copies,
I still
like,
haven't read that book. I mean, I have it downloaded. I bought it, I downloaded it, and I started it, but I haven't read that book. But you know, I probably would read Black Swan like on the third time before I read that James Clear to you know to kind of
it
put it
wasn't a
out there.
bad book. I mean, to
It,
be fair, I mean,
it wasn't. It was. I mean,
the
I'm not saying, but I think it subjectively, I like you know the Black Swan more. But that to your point is that how James Clear sell 10 million copies in the first 2 years is beyond me, right? And so you
it's
cannot plan
the
for
fat
it.
head and the long tail, you know,
You
like I mean,
cannot
you
plan
like
for
it's
that.
yeah,
You can say, well,
right.
if I do it this way, I'll you know position that way, I'm gonna get this result. It doesn't work
Right.
that way. The thing is, you can't. A man cannot be in cannot step in the same river twice, right? For one, the man is not the same man. Second is the river is not the same river. Therefore, whatever you learn from anyone, right? It's not going to work because it's not the same environment. It
Even
has
yourself,
changed.
like I mean, all these CEOs that think they can just step right back in and go, well, I've done this before, I'll do it again, you know, like, and you're like, no, you got lucky when you exited with your first time for $1 billion exit or whatever. Like the chances that you ever do that again and again and again, that just because you have experience doing it, like it's honestly, they should. If I was an investor, I would never invest into somebody that's already done it again, like or done it once, you know, because I'd be like, the chances of you having success again, like you already had, is probably damn near slim and not just as good as anybody that's never done it before, you know, because you never did it before in the first place anyway. Like, like you're so spot on with what you're talking about, and like, you know, all these things all come back together to me in one really, really, really important lesson, which is what we've been talking about, is you can't control anything else, but what can you control? You can control what you do every single day and why you do it. That's it. Like, and if you do that and that's all that you focus on, like I promise you, like you're gonna have, out of the 1,000 days you have, you know, if you're the turkey, like you're gonna have 1,000 great days. Like, you know, like I mean that, and that's what really matters, right? Like I mean,
Yeah,
like
you
it's
have 1,000 great days in one day of you know sadness, or you can have like 1,000 days of sadness, one day of greatness, right? I mean, that's what you are training for. If you are looking at mediocre stand, right? That's what you are doing. You eating the frogs in one day that you eat the cake.
for
I'm gonna
one
eat the
day you can eat a
cake
cake.
for a
Yeah,
1,000 days, and then I eat the
right,
frog the last day. And
right,
so,
yeah.
I mean, you look from that perspective. You know, which one do you want?
It's a
Don't. I mean,
no-brainer. I mean, it's not even a question, right? Like I'm not going to sacrifice, you know, everything in my life so I can have one day, maybe not even one day, like 5 minutes. I mean, how long is a 100-meter swim for Michael Phelps, or you know, like what is it, like 50 seconds? For 50 fucking seconds, like, you know, you don't even get a day, you get like 50 seconds, you know, to be that, you know, that have that feeling, and then it's gone. Like, you know, I mean, I'm like I mean, every day you and I, like, you know, we were just talking about this before, like where do we find the energy to do this stuff at the end of the day? Well, we like to do it, and like we get every single day we get to have fun doing stuff that we like to do. Every single morning I get to right in the morning, or go take a run with Amelia, or go play tennis, or coach my team, or help them to discover new things themselves, or learn something new myself. Like every day I get an opportunity to do that stuff, and I love it. Like hell, like today it's been a while since I've taken a cold shower because it's actually starting to warm up. Because I've been running outside and it's been cold. It's actually starting to warm up a little bit, and today it's pretty warm. Like I mean, it's so I was like got done with my exercise and I came back in and I was like, oh shit, I haven't taken an actual cold shower in a while, like a really long time. And I literally was like, because that was my rule. It's like if it's as long as it's cold outside, like I call that a cold shower, because it is cold. I mean, so I got back in today and I was like, damn it, I don't want to do this. I sat there staring at the shower, like the little knob that I would turn to the cold, and I was like, I'm not gonna do it. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not joking. This happened this morning for like 4 minutes. I stood there and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. No, Chris, do it. I'm not gonna do it. No, Chris, just do it. Just get it over. I'm not joking. I argued with myself in there for like 5 minutes. And then finally I just turned it over and I was like it was awful. I mean, I hadn't done it forever. I was like panting. I felt like I was gonna pass out for a hot minute, and I ended up 2 minutes later being done with it. I got out of the shower and I was like, oh man, that felt really good. And I was like, all right, okay, I can do this again tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I
just
don't know, man. It's still eating the frog for me. If you had to do that, it's eating the frog. Because to me, when you're doing something that really aligns with who you are,
right. It's
there
effortless. I
is
know.
it effortless. Because thing is like I say, Snow loves to when our friend Snow loves
Yeah.
to teach, but he hates his job because it's how he did it. It's how like so the thing is you may love cold shower, but it's how you did it. It's like eating a
Right.
frog and a cake.
No, it was like it's a
Together.
frog cake. Yeah, it's a
It's
frog
a
cake.
frog cake.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to
I
understand. I mean, if you
that's
look,
funny.
if you look at what we telling, what we're saying today, right? You're supposed to be eating the cake and eating that frog. You're supposed to enjoy your 1,000 day, and then maybe that one day something happens to you. That's fine, but you enjoy the bulk of your life,
Right.
right? To do the things that matters to you, right? But you look at what society tells you. Society tells you the opposite. Society tells you to eat the frog, right, and not eat the cake because get the challenging things out of the way. But the challenging is it doesn't matter to you, right?
Right. It
and,
doesn't
and,
at all. Like, I mean, if I never took a cold shower again for the rest of my life, no one would be like disappointed in you. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like it was just nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody gives a shit. Like, I do it because challenging myself is one of my core values. And it's fun. It was fun for me to push myself to go do it. That's why I say like I didn't want to do it, but it was fun. And for me to do it because that little extra challenge for myself was enjoyable for me. No one else knows it. There's no award for it. There's no
you
like
shouldn't. You
public
shouldn't because the
praise.
thing is, whatever you do should be the prize and the cake in itself. If that isn't, then please look for other
Stop.
activity that align because there are thousands and probably millions of
Right.
activities that it is more aligned with your values. You can't say, well, I walk to the garden. Oh, that flower, I don't really like it, but I don't mind. I'll pluck it, pluck it. Thing is, you have a fucking full bag of all the shit that you say, hey,
Right.
it's good enough, but it's not really what I want. Or you have the really the one or two or even 5 things or even 10 things that you really, really, really love. You really appreciate. And
Right.
so the thing is when you hoard all these things, right? Whatever is the most precious to you gets kind of masked by the other things that hey, it's not too bad. Let's pick it,
Right.
right? So you pick everything in the flower in the garden, every single thing, right? Versus hey, pick the best one out and enjoy that one. You focus on it. You have the utmost time with it. Versus hey, I hoard everything. So that's what I'm saying is whenever something isn't effortless for you, either you look in the wrong way or it isn't exactly the perfect thing for you. It could be close, but it's not perfect, right? And if that's the case, then it probably isn't. It may be overlapping. Like for example, hey, this machine needs a quarter. Oh, can I put a nickel in there? Well, if you know what I mean, you put
Right.
a nickel in there, it will go into the slot. But is it perfectly made and designed for a nickel? No, is it? It's designed for a quarter.
Right.
So whatever machine that needs a quarter, you gotta put in a quarter. And so when you pull out your little corn pouch, well, you gotta look through the pennies, to the dimes, to the nickels to get the quarter. Find the quarter, right? Versus, hey, well, this one might work. I'll use it. Well, it doesn't work like that. So think about it in that way. So the takeaway for me is you have to understand objectively what you are looking at, what you're measuring, and then measuring it with the right tool and figure out what is the best tool for that particular environment. You cannot use another tool to measure that because you're going to be disappointed. At the same time, what we see is as far as reality, or not reality, but life in general, the life journey says that for the most part, it's going to be so dynamic. There's no way for you and I to predict anything that's going to come. So you're going to have to say, if I have today, how can I enjoy the utmost that I can? Because you say, well, if I'm going to eat the frog today and hope that tomorrow or next year I will eat the cake, that next year may never come. You might die tomorrow. You may die tonight. So that's it's going to be probable. It's a probable that you're going to have that. So if you continue to operate in
delayed fulfillment is what it is. Delayed fulfillment is
never
the
comes.
problem. Huh? Never comes.
Delayed fulfillment never comes.
It does come, but it might only come for 5 fleeting seconds, or maybe you get lucky and it's a day, a full day of fulfillment, but like you forsook a lifetime of fulfillment,
I mean,
that you could have had.
It's 99 to 1. This is the same ratio we're talking about. It's 99 to 1, right?
Right.
You sacrifice 99% of your time for 1% of reward. You eat 99% of your frog for one piece of cake, or the reverse. You can always reverse it, right? And say, hey, I'm going to have 99% of all my fulfillment, and then whatever happens to me, well, if I'm at control, then it's okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
at least
what are you
at
gonna
least I
do?
maximize the opportunity that I have.
Right.
I mean, bottom line is, how can you maximize the opportunity that you have? Because
I wouldn't even to call it. I think maximizing is the wrong word. Like, it's how do you ensure a fulfilling life,
maximizing fulfillment.
Right. Well, fine, but I guess I don't know what the top end of fulfillment is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that, like, is it like being fulfilled from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed, or what about when you're sleeping? Like, I guess I don't want to fulfillment. Like, if you feel fulfilled, you feel fulfilled.
I think fulfillment and purpose and all these, it's going
Right.
to be individually, different, dynamic, because every person has different measurements. So I'm saying is, I can't tell you that this is core value that you should take. This is core value that I value. You can value differently. That's up to you, right? And fulfillment, whatever that you think is fulfillment, right? Whatever that you think is, makes you feel, positive, you do that.
Right.
Because
I
you say, well, to maximize fulfillment, it's not really to say, hey, maximizing in this way, maximize in your way, whatever way that's what I'm saying is, we live in
I know what you're saying.
In a
I'm
wicked
saying, like,
environment, it's so dynamic. So
yeah,
when we have something dynamic, like you say, core values is an abstract. It's not a concrete thing. So it changes. The core value changes. If you give to another different person, it changes. Right.
A core value is how you get through extreme sand. Like, you need something abstract that can evolve as the circumstances evolve. Right. Like, I mean, you have to, because like,
if something
this life
is fluid,
is evolving.
right? If something is fluid, you
need fluid.
You need fluid. You need something fluid as well to be inside that environment. Because if not, then the thing is, you can adjust.
Right.
So that means that when we live in a fluid environment, in a dynamic environment, we need to have things that are also dynamic and fluid. Because if you don't, then whatever you take as is concrete, then it doesn't do anything. It's just going to get submerged in it.
Right. Or somebody can take it away, or it will be taken away from you. It will be. Like, I mean, let's just be crystal clear. If you want something concrete, in this physical world, and I don't know how long you have it. Like you may get lucky and you have it for 50 years. You may have it for 30 years. You may only have it for 1 year. You may have it for 20 days. You may have it for 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like with your gold medal that you got, and like you get a fulfillment. But the point is like if you anchor your fulfillment on something concrete, it will be taken from you. Like it is a guarantee. Like
because
yeah.
it's not concrete. If you in reality in the fluid world, it's not concrete because it dissolves.
Right.
It dissolves because whatever it is, hey, I have this goal of winning gold medal to have
Each
this
day is gone.
euphoria, and then the moment you got it, oh, you got it, you get elated for like maybe 5 minutes, an hour, a day, and then after that, it's gone. It completely dissolves. It disappears. Exactly. It doesn't stay, and that's the thing is you are inside of that environment. You cannot control that environment. You're gonna have to compensate it with the same concept, the same abstract fluid, whatever the fluid, you can combat it right. with the same properties. If the properties are fluid, you live in a fluid environment, then you have to have the property that are also fluid. You can change with it. If you Agreed. Don't, then you basically completely immovable, and they are movable, and they can flow around you.
Agreed. Be water, right? All right, I gotta
be
jump
water, my friend.
I gotta jump because I have another I gotta go run for a train.
All right.
All right. But it's good talking to you at midday. That was fun, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Sounds good. See you.